So we're going to demonstrate the Japanese folded star. Now you start off with a hexagon, so you'll need a template. If you bought our kit from when you seen me in a previous incarnation, then you will have got a Mylar template. If not, just download a hexagon off the internet, print it off, cut around, and that can be a template, no problem. So you need your hexagon template. You also need an outer fabric and an inner fabric. I've gone for a plain and a pattern because I think that it looks nice when it's inverted, so that you've got a colour that's very similar to the pattern and it looks like this when it's done. You've got the purple here as well, really nice. You'll also need thread. I've gone for variegated embroidery thread just because I think it looks really, really nice. So basically you're going to end up with something that looks very similar to this. Now of course you can make this bigger, you can just have 4 together if you want to, you can have it absolutely huge. You can go really big as well with your hexagons, so these will be really big folded stars. Again, up to you. This hexagon that I've got is, let's have a measure, from point to point, 5 3/4 inches. So 5 3/4 inches from there to there. And then the other sides are, that's 5 inches from there to there. So what we're going to do is cut out some fabric. I'm going to go for a lovely tilde. And then we're going to have, so we need one for the outer, one for the inner, and you also need a wadding. Now I say don't use a foam wadding at this point because it's going to be too rigid, because when we need to fold over, because we have to turn this right side round, it's going to be too rigid. So you want just a normal sort of polyester wadding. What I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the green tilde and the pink tilde as contrast because I think that looks really nice. And I'm not overly bothered that it's 2 different colours. So I will cut off a scrap. And in the pink. Okay, so all I'm going to do is take my template and I'm just going to draw around it with pen. It doesn't really matter about using anything that's not going to be seen because this is going to be inside your seam allowance. So I'm just using, whoopsies, just using a gel pen. One and the other one. I'm just going to cut these out. You can use your rotary cutter and your ruler if you want to. I'm just going to use my scissors. Now these have to be the exact same size. That's why I do recommend using a stencil, because then they're going to be exact. And then of course when you come to join them all up, they'll be exact then as well, which makes it really easy. So that's my first hexagon. On to my next hexagon. Like so. These colours are really bright, they're just lovely. This is a really quick project, so if you've got, you've got an afternoon, you can whip this up, no problem. Right, so you've got your 2 hexagons. Obviously you'll multiply that by however many hexagons you want. But you've got your 2. You'll then place your wadding in. Now I haven't got any wadding to hand, so we're just gonna, you have to use your imagination. There's wadding here. So what you're gonna do is put your wadding down first, then you're gonna place one, then you're gonna place the other one right sides together. So your sandwich is wadding, fabric facing up, and then fabric facing down. You're going to stitch around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 edges, and you're going to leave this edge clear. We are going to take our stitch right to the edge here and then right to the edge here. So you have a gap there for turning. Okay, so let's bring in the machine. I'm using a nice red thread again so you can see what I'm up to. Makes it a lot easier for demonstrations if you can actually see what I'm doing. So using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm just going to stitch around those sides. Keep your needle down and just turn. Third side. Needle down, turn. Needle down. Okay, so we've run straight off the edge there. We're just going to trim our threads. Now we want to cut off any excess fabric around the points. I just trim it like this, just a quick snip. Depending on how much wadding you've got, you might want to chop away any excess wadding. So we turn it round, right side round, and you're going to want to really poke out those points. I know a lot of people say don't use your scissors, but when this is the thing to hand, don't think it overly matters as long as you're careful. Poke out those points, like so. Then you're going to need to turn this in. You need to be as close as you can to 1/4 inch so it matches everything else. So that is far too big. So like that. Now what you would need to do now is just press that seam so that it's in place, or you can use your quilting clips, and then we're simply going to top stitch along here. So bring in the machine again, top stitch this closed. Okay, trim off those threads again. And then you want to give that a really good press. Once you've pressed it, let's get rid of that thread. Once you've pressed it, you need for it to end up looking like this. So what you do is take each point. Now you don't want to fold it so you've got a flat edge here. That's not going to work, because when you get to the next point, you've got nothing to fold. So simply take this point and fold it in. I would say I'm folding that in on the 1/4 inch line. So fold that in. You can either pin that or press it into place. I prefer to press it into place. Then you're going to do the next one. Then you're going to do the next one. And so on until you've got something that resembles this, where you can clearly see where you've pressed, okay? Then we're going to take our embroidery thread. I'm using this lovely variegated thread. And all you're doing then is hand stitching these points into place. So it resembles a bit of a Japanese sashiko technique. So your stitches want to be about the same size as a grain of rice, like so. And then we move on to the next one. And because we pressed that, it automatically goes to where we want it. Stitch every single one. You probably need 2 or 3 stitches and you end up with this. Once you've done one, you can go on and make loads more and you can join them together. So with this, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I've simply used a zigzag stitch to join them all together. Because I've used a template, they're exactly the same size, so it's easy to butt those all together. I'll show you with this one, simply butted that in like that, held it together and zigzagged it together. So hopefully you can see that. So that is your Japanese folded star tutorial.